Hey there, I'm Timothy Roberts, and in this video we are going to look at modifying this ride cymbal. So recently I had a customer send in this Sabian HHX Manhattan Jazz ride. The weight on it is 2475 grams. Now when I get a cymbal in for modification, I take a look at the profile and the shape. First thing, I want to know how much is it curving? Is it very umbrella-like or is it low and flat? And then I also want to look at the bell and see what's the shape of it. Is it tall? Is it low and flat? Or is it kind of triangular and almost conical with a peak near the center? And in the case of this ride, it is very much so a triangular shaped bell. So it kind of comes up to a point at the top. It's not very... The peak of it is rather small, and it comes down from there. That is going to give me a brighter, more glassy chime-like sound than if it were lower and had a more of a flat top, so it had like a wide peak. Think of like a plateau with a lot of surface area. So if it was wider, much lower, and much flatter on the top, we'd have a much more mellow, dark sound from the cymbal. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to hammer the bell out. I'm going to work the bell and reshape it some so that I can get a little bit more of a wider peak. So I'm going to hammer on the sides here to bring this up so that we can hopefully get that mellow, dark sound out of it. Now for the profile, this is a fairly medium to medium tall profile, so it is going to tend to have a brighter, more articulate sound on the stick, which is great. That gives me room to shave it a little bit thinner and add some hammering to bring in some darkness and complexity. And typically, if you shave things thinner, you can risk turning down the stick definition, so to speak. So because it's in a taller shape, that's going to give me room to shave it thinner, and I'll know that it's going to retain that stick definition. I will be turning it down, so to speak, kind of blending it more into the mix of the overall cymbal sound, but I've got room. And so with cymbal modifications, it really is it's the art of compromise. So the more dark and washy you take it, the less clarity and stick definition you're going to have. And so it really is about finding a happy medium so that you can create a cymbal that's versatile and inspiring to play. Now, another thing I really want to note about this cymbal is the hammering that I'm going to do and the purpose of it. A lot of people will send me cymbals and they'll say, I want you to hammer it. And I think people don't quite understand what is the purpose of hammering. And to me, I like to make things super simple. The purpose is twofold. On one hand, we want to think of the topography of the cymbal. So is it smooth or is it rough? Does it have a lot of deep pits and troughs and peaks and all this kind of topography to it, or is it nice and smooth? Now, the cymbals that have more topography are going to tend towards a drier sound that is a little bit more complex. The smoother cymbals are going to sound smoother. They're going to have more of a clean shimmer to them. They're going to have a more even wash, and the spectrum, the frequency spectrum is going to feel a little bit more shallow. Whereas cymbals that have more texture to them can actually feel like they're a bit wider. And the lows are lower, the highs are higher, and there's a lot of space in between. I like to think of it like watching a 4K video versus watching a 360p video. And you know, the 360p is fine, it gets the job done, but the 4K video, you're going to see all of the depth of character in the video. And I like to think of that analogy for cymbals. Oftentimes, the mass manufactured cymbals just feel pretty shallow to me. All of the highs, mids, and lows feel kind of squished, and because of that, they're incredibly. On one hand, they can be versatile. They can kind of do it all if you have the technique, but they're also kind of uninspiring to play. So the cymbals that I make and the cymbals that I modify, I'm really just trying to make them interesting. I want you to be able to hit it and feel like, wow, I can make music on this instrument. So that's what we're going to try to do with this. I wouldn't say that this is a bad cymbal by any means, but it is a little bit one-dimensional. It's got kind of a glassy, chimey, clean sound to it, and we really just want to muck it up. We want to get some dirt, some grit in the sound so that you can get a lot of different tones out of it. You can get a lot of different sounds depending on how you play it, and it'll be just more inviting to play. All right, so I'm going to head out to the shop, get this done, and we'll see what it turns into. All right, hammering done. First round of lathing done. Let's check out what this thing sounds like. So since I just did the hammering, it's going to be a little bit choked, and it will need time to rest. There's going to be a lot more spread and high end once it's had even just 4 hours, but especially overnight and over the course of 2 or 3 days, it'll really open up. So I'll probably end up doing a patina on this just to dry up that spread a little bit, but we definitely are headed in the right direction. We're headed towards complex and a much more dark sound. With the bell, I wanted to note that with all the hammering that I did to kind of expand it out, I didn't do a lot of weight removal on the lathe. I was really just trying to do a scratch pass to get the surface layer of bronze off. I do not want to remove too much weight because that bell will then, it'll lose the sense of pointedness that it has, and it'll start to sound hollow and weak. So right now, it sounds solid, it sounds like it's pointed and it's cutting, and it would be able to cut through the music. It's not too shrill. I might end up taking a little bit more weight off of it, but given the fact that I've done the hammering, I have thinned out the material there, so I'm always mindful of that, especially when thinking about the taper in a cymbal. All right, here is the completed modification of the HHX Manhattan Jazz Ride. I did a couple other processes after what I showed you in the shop. I did a patina and then a little bit of burnishing and just some finalization of the cymbal. But for the most part, what I showed you right after the hammering and the lathing is what we have in front of us. It's had time to rest, so the metal has opened back up. There's a lot more spread and shimmer, and it's sounding really, really nice. Now the new weight is 2280 grams, which I would consider thin for a 22-inch ride, but the patina that I added on top of it allows a bit more dryness to come back into the cymbal. It tightens up the stick, it tightens up the spread. So when you get this thin on a ride, oftentimes it can be really washy, have a ton of spread, a ton of high frequencies going on, and that can overwhelm the sound of the cymbal. And that's why I really like to put patinas on really thin cymbals, because it can kind of bring them back to a place where the stick will still sit on top. But because of the weight that it's at, it will activate at a really low volume and it'll have a nice warm low pitch. So let's take a listen to the before and the after of this cymbal, and we'll talk about what we're hearing, and you guys can let me know what you think. Okay, that's it. The HHX Manhattan Jazz mod is complete. We have a different sounding cymbal, but with still the same character of the original, because I really wasn't trying to adjust too much of the shape. I really wanted to just get that bell a little bit more wide, and that really was the thing that would allow there to be a bit more darkness to come through. I wanted to take out top end that it had and bring it into a more mellow place. And if you guys want to send me a cymbal for a modification, you can find details on reveriedrums.com. I've got a product page, and you can hit mod cymbals, and then I've got 3 different cymbal modification classifications, and you can click on each one. It has all the information about the mod, and you can fill the form out, hit pay, and then we're in touch with your shipping label, and we can talk about what you want from your modification. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't, hit the bell for notifications, and keep an eye out for the next video. I'm Timothy Roberts. Thanks for watching.